I was standing at my quality control station at Advanced Medical Systems, checking the calibration on a ventilator component that could save someone's life tomorrow, when my phone buzzed with a family group message. The notification made my stomach drop before I even read it. My mother Margaret had written, "Planning Mother's Day dinner Sunday 2 p.m. for my successful children only. Elena, since you chose factory work over education, you are not invited. David and Marcus, please bring your wives." I looked around at my coworkers, feeling shame wash over me, but also a strange sense of pride about the important work we do here. Before we dive into this story, let me know where you are watching from and hit that like button if you have ever felt undervalued by family. Subscribe for more real-life stories that remind us we are not alone in these struggles. Now let me tell you how one text message changed my entire life. Growing up in the suburbs of Cleveland, our family seemed picture-perfect from the outside. My mother, Margaret, worked as an accountant for a mid-sized firm, bringing home steady income and respectability. My two older brothers followed the path she had mapped out for all of us. David became a lawyer with his own practice downtown, while Marcus established himself as a successful dental practitioner. Then there was me, Elena, the youngest at 27, who had somehow derailed from the family's grand plans. The derailment began when I was 16 and my father was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. While my brothers were away at college building their careers, I watched my dad slowly waste away in hospital beds and treatment centers. I had completed 2 years at Cleveland State University, majoring in business administration, when the medical bills started overwhelming our insurance coverage. Without hesitation, I dropped out to care for my father and work part-time to help with expenses. After Dad passed when I was 19, I never returned to college. The grief was overwhelming and frankly our family finances were destroyed. My mother expected me to go back to school, but I had discovered something unexpected during those difficult years. I had started working at Advanced Medical Systems initially, just doing basic assembly work to help pay bills. But I found myself fascinated by the precision required in medical device manufacturing. Every component we produced could mean the difference between life and death for someone's loved one. Over the years, I worked my way up to quality control specialist. I earned $45,000 annually, had excellent health insurance, and genuinely loved the responsibility of ensuring that our ventilators, monitors, and surgical instruments met the highest standards. My colleagues respected my attention to detail, and I had built meaningful friendships with people like Maria, a single mother in her 40s who worked in packaging. We often ate lunch together, sharing stories about our lives outside the factory walls. But my mother's attitude toward my career choice had shifted dramatically over the past few years. Initially, she supported my decision to help the family during Dad's illness. She even praised my work ethic and dedication. However, as my brothers established themselves professionally and started families, Margaret began making subtle comparisons. Holiday dinners became exercises in highlighting David's latest legal victories or Marcus's new dental equipment purchases. My contributions to the conversation about work were met with polite nods and quick subject changes. The subtle dismissals gradually became more pointed. Margaret would introduce my brothers as my lawyer son and my dentist son while referring to me simply as Elena. When neighbors or family friends asked about my career, she would say I was still figuring things out or taking some time to explore options. These comments stung because I was not figuring anything out. I knew exactly what I wanted to do and was genuinely good at it. The family group chat where Margaret dropped her Mother's Day bomb had been created 6 months earlier for sharing updates and coordinating family gatherings. It included the four of us, Margaret, David, Marcus, and me. Usually the messages were mundane logistics about birthday plans or holiday schedules. David would occasionally share photos of his latest vacation with his wife Sarah, while Marcus posted pictures of his new house and updates about his dental practice expansion. When I read Margaret's message about the Mother's Day dinner for successful children only, I screenshot it immediately, hardly believing what I was seeing. The deliberate exclusion was bad enough, but the public nature of it in our family chat made it feel like a formal disownment. What made it worse was the deafening silence from my brothers. Neither David nor Marcus responded to defend me or question our mother's cruel decree. The silence stretched for hours, and I realized that their lack of response was its own form of agreement. I sat in the break room that afternoon staring at my phone and fighting back tears. Maria noticed my distress and sat down beside me. "What's wrong, honey?" she asked with the genuine concern of someone who had become like family to me. I showed her the message and her face darkened with anger. That's horrible, Elena. You know what? My family pulled similar garbage when I got pregnant at 18. Cut me off completely because I did not fit their image of success. Maria's honesty helped me realize I was not alone in experiencing family rejection, but it also highlighted how isolated I had become within my own family unit. The immediate aftermath of reading my mother's message felt like falling through ice into freezing water. Every breath hurt, and I could not seem to get warm no matter how many layers I wrapped around myself. I kept rereading the words, hoping I had misunderstood, but the meaning remained brutally clear. After everything I had sacrificed for our family, after all the years of caring for Dad, while my brothers built their careers, I was now considered unworthy of a simple Mother's Day dinner. That evening, I decided to reach out to my brothers directly, hoping they would clarify their silence or perhaps reveal that they disagreed with Margaret's decision. I called David first since he was the older of the two and had always been the family mediator during childhood conflicts. His response was worse than I had expected. Mom has her reasons, Elena. You know how she is about appearances and success. Maybe this is her way of motivating you to get back in school or find a better job. His dismissive tone made it clear he saw our mother's behavior as reasonable, even necessary. My call to Marcus yielded similar results, though he was more direct in his criticism. Maybe you should have stayed in school, Elena. I cannot get involved in this situation between you and Mom. You made your choices, and now you have to live with the consequences. The word consequences echoed in my head for hours afterward. What consequences? Working hard at an honest job, contributing to society by ensuring medical equipment functioned properly? Choosing family loyalty over personal ambition when Dad was dying? When I tried calling Margaret directly, she refused to answer. I called 3 times over 2 days, leaving voicemails that started apologetic and confused, then became more hurt and desperate. Mom, please call me back. I do not understand what I did wrong. Can we talk about this? But she never responded, and I finally accepted that the silence was intentional and permanent. The next few days passed in a blur of hurt, confusion, and growing anger. I went through the motions at work, but my colleagues noticed my distraction. Maria checked on me regularly, bringing me coffee and sharing stories about her own family estrangement. The hardest part, she told me, is accepting that the people who are supposed to love you unconditionally sometimes love their image of you more than they love the real you. During those 3 days of processing Margaret's rejection, I made a decision that surprised even me. I would not fight back with angry phone calls or dramatic confrontations. I would not beg for acceptance or try to prove my worth through arguments. Instead, I would demonstrate my value through quiet, determined action. If my family could not see my worth, I would build a life where that worth was recognized and celebrated. I had been working at Advanced Medical Systems for 8 years and had built a solid reputation for reliability and expertise. When I approached my supervisor about transfer opportunities, she mentioned that our Portland, Oregon facility was looking for a supervisor for their quality control department. The position would mean a significant promotion and a salary increase to $72,000 annually. More importantly, it would give me the chance to start fresh in a place where my value was not predetermined by family expectations. The application and interview process took 3 weeks. During that time, I told no one in my family about my plans. I continued working my regular shifts, attended my usual activities, and maintained my normal routine. The only people who knew about my potential move were a few close work friends, including Maria, who supported my decision while expressing sadness about losing a dear friend. When I received the official job offer, I accepted immediately. The position would start in 6 weeks, giving me time to wrap up my responsibilities in Cleveland and make moving arrangements. I rented a small studio apartment in Portland through online listings, arranged for shipping my few belongings, and prepared to drive my 15-year-old Toyota Camry across the country. The hardest part was not telling my family. Every day I thought about calling David or Marcus to share my news, hoping they might care enough to express concern about my leaving. But I remembered their silence during the Mother's Day incident and realized they had already chosen their side. My departure would be as quiet as their abandonment had been. My last day in Cleveland arrived with unexpected emotional weight. Standing in my small apartment looking at the boxes containing 8 years of independent living, I felt a mixture of sadness and relief. This place had been my refuge after Dad died, the first space that belonged entirely to me. But it had also been the place where I received that devastating family message and realized I was truly alone. As I loaded my car that final morning, I took one last look at the neighborhood where I'd grown up. Part of me hoped to see David's car pulling up or to receive a last-minute call from Margaret asking where I was going. But the street remained empty, and my phone stayed silent. I started the engine and drove toward Interstate 76, leaving Cleveland and my family behind without a single goodbye. The drive to Portland took me 3 days, and each mile felt like shedding an old skin. I stopped in small towns across Pennsylvania, Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Iowa, Nebraska, Wyoming, Idaho, and finally Oregon, talking to strangers at gas stations and diners who knew nothing about my family's expectations or disappointments. For the first time in years, I was just Elena, not the daughter who had failed to meet standards or the sister who had chosen the wrong path. Portland welcomed me with misty mornings and the spectacular backdrop of the Cascade Mountains. My studio apartment was tiny but had a view of Mount Hood on clear days, and I could walk to work in 15 minutes. The Advanced Medical Systems facility here was larger and more modern than the Cleveland location, with state-of-the-art equipment and a workforce that seemed genuinely excited about their contributions to healthcare technology. My new role as quality control supervisor meant managing a team of 12 technicians and specialists, overseeing the testing protocols for 3 different product lines, and reporting directly to the operations manager. The responsibility was challenging but invigorating. For the first time in my career, I had input on process improvements and could implement changes that increased efficiency and accuracy. My team respected my experience and appreciated my hands-on management style. Within 6 months, I was thriving in ways I had never experienced in Cleveland. My work performance earned recognition from upper management, and I received my first bonus check worth $3,000. Even more significantly, I was making genuine friendships with colleagues who invited me to hiking trips, dinner parties, and weekend activities. The Pacific Northwest outdoor culture was completely new to me, but I discovered a love for rock climbing at a local gym and joined a weekend hiking group that explored the Columbia River Gorge. One evening, after a particularly satisfying day at work, I enrolled in business management courses at Portland Community College. The classes were held twice weekly in the evening, and I found myself energized by learning again after so many years away from formal education. Unlike my college experience in Cleveland, which had felt obligatory and stressful, these courses were entirely my choice, paid for, with my own money, and directly applicable to my career goals. It was during a community college study group that I met Jake, a paramedic who was taking courses in healthcare administration. He was 29, originally from Montana, with an easy smile and genuine curiosity about my background in medical device manufacturing. Our first coffee date turned into a 4-hour conversation about our respective roles in healthcare, our families, and our dreams for the future. Jake's uncomplicated acceptance of my career and his respect for my expertise felt revolutionary after years of family dismissal. The personal growth I experienced during my first year in Portland was matched by unexpected professional opportunities. During a routine quality inspection, I discovered a subtle flaw in one of our assembly line processes that was causing microscopic stress fractures in surgical instrument housings. The defect was not immediately dangerous, but could lead to equipment failure during critical procedures. My detailed report and proposed solution caught the attention of our company's chief executive officer. The fix I suggested required recalibrating 3 machines and adjusting our testing protocols, but it would prevent potential device failures that could endanger patients. More importantly for the company, implementing my solution would save an estimated $2.3 million annually in warranty claims and potential liability issues. The CEO personally thanked me during a company-wide meeting and announced my promotion to operations manager with a salary increase to $95,000 plus performance bonuses. Meanwhile, news from Cleveland reached me occasionally through Maria, who kept in touch via text messages and Facebook posts. According to her updates, Margaret had been asking mutual acquaintances about my whereabouts. My brothers had also inquired about my absence from family events, though neither had attempted to contact me directly. Maria mentioned that Margaret seemed genuinely confused about why I had left without saying goodbye, which struck me as remarkably disconnected from the reality of her own actions. The most significant news came 18 months after my move to Portland. David had been arrested for embezzling funds from his law firm's client accounts. The scandal made the Cleveland Plain Dealer, and Maria sent me the newspaper article via text. According to the report, David had stolen over $200,000 to cover gambling debts and maintain his expensive lifestyle. His law license was suspended pending criminal proceedings, and his wife Sarah had filed for divorce. 3 days after the newspaper article appeared, I received my first phone call from Cleveland since leaving. Marcus was on the line, his voice strained and unfamiliar. "Elena, we need to talk. Mom is falling apart over David's situation. She needs all of us right now. Can you come home?" The word home felt strange and hollow. I listened to Marcus explain how Margaret was having health problems related to stress and how the family needed to unite during this difficult time. But I felt no urge to rush back to Cleveland. The crisis that was destroying my family's carefully constructed image of success felt distant and unrelated to my life in Portland. I had built something real and meaningful here, surrounded by people who valued my contributions and supported my growth. The woman who had been cast out for being a factory worker had become an operations manager whose innovation saved lives and millions of dollars. 3 years after leaving Cleveland, I received a phone call that would test everything I had learned about forgiveness, boundaries, and self-worth. It was a Tuesday morning in October, and I was reviewing production reports in my office when my assistant informed me that someone named Margaret from Cleveland was calling on our company's main line. She had identified herself as my mother and said it was urgent family business. When I picked up the phone, Margaret's voice was barely recognizable. The confident, authoritative tone I remembered had been replaced by something fragile and uncertain. "Elena," she said, and I could hear her breathing carefully as if each word required effort. "I made mistakes, terrible mistakes. I need you to come home." The irony of her reaching out to me through my workplace, the very environment she had dismissed as unsuccessful, was not lost on me. I remained quiet, allowing her to continue. She told me about David's legal troubles, which had grown worse since his initial arrest. He was facing federal charges now and the possibility of prison time. Marcus was overwhelmed trying to manage his own practice while providing emotional and financial support for Margaret, whose blood pressure had spiked dangerously high due to stress. "I realized," she said, her voice breaking, "that you were the only one who ever sacrificed anything for this family. You were the only one who stayed when things got difficult." My response surprised even me with its calmness. "Mom, I built a life here. I have a career, relationships, responsibilities." I paused, looking out my office window at Mount Hood, its snow-capped peak gleaming in the autumn sunshine. "You made it clear I was not family when you needed successful children only." There was no anger in my voice, just simple honesty about what had transpired between us. Margaret began crying, then deep sobs that carried years of regret. She admitted that the house felt empty without me, that holidays had become joyless affairs where everyone pretended everything was fine. She confessed that she had driven past my old apartment building several times hoping to see my car before remembering that I no longer lived there. "You were the heart of this family," she said. "I was so worried about how things looked to other people that I forgot what actually mattered." "I am not angry anymore," I told her truthfully. "I am grateful you showed me I could stand on my own." This statement seemed to shock her more than anger would have. I continued, "I wish you well, but I will not be coming back. I have built something meaningful here, and I will not abandon it to fix problems I did not create." The conversation lasted another 20 minutes with Margaret, alternately apologizing and pleading for my return. She offered to help pay for my moving expenses to find me a job in Cleveland to make up for the years of dismissal and neglect, but I remained firm in my decision. I had learned that forgiveness did not require reconciliation, and that loving someone from a distance was sometimes the healthiest choice for everyone involved. That evening, I sat with Jake on our apartment balcony, sharing the details of the phone call. We had moved in together 6 months earlier, and his presence had become a steady source of support and joy in my life. "You handled that with such grace," he said, pulling me close. "I am proud of how strong you have become." His words helped me realize that I had completely healed from the family trauma that once defined my sense of worth. A month later, I received an invitation to speak at the National Manufacturing Conference in Chicago. The topic was Innovation from the Factory Floor, and I would be addressing an audience of over 500 industry professionals about my experience implementing cost-saving improvements in medical device production. Standing at that podium receiving a standing ovation for my presentation, I thought about the woman who had once felt ashamed of her factory job. The work I did mattered, and the people who truly understood, that were the ones worth keeping in my life. The following week, Industry Weekly magazine published a feature article about my presentation and career journey. The piece highlighted how frontline workers often have the best insights for improving manufacturing processes, and it used my innovations as a case study for empowering employee-driven change. When the magazine hit newsstands, I received congratulatory messages from colleagues, friends, and even strangers who had been inspired by the article. Back in Portland, my chosen family celebrated this recognition with a dinner party that filled our apartment with laughter and genuine affection. Maria had flown out from Cleveland for the occasion, along with several friends from my hiking group, my community college study partners, Jake's family, and colleagues from work. Looking around the table at these people who valued and supported me, I felt a completeness that had nothing to do with blood relations and everything to do with mutual respect and care. 2 days after the party, I received a text message from Margaret. It was a photo of the Industry Weekly article with a simple message: "I am proud of you. I always should have been." I stared at the message for a long time, feeling a mixture of sadness for the years we had lost and peace about the choices I had made. I did not reply immediately, but I did not delete the message either. Some doors, I realized, could remain slightly ajar without being fully opened. I learned that when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. But I also discovered that your worth is not determined by their approval. Sometimes being cast out is actually being set free to become who you were always meant to be. The factory did not make me less valuable. It taught me that every honest job has dignity, and every person deserves respect for their efforts to build something meaningful. Have you ever been underestimated by people who should have supported you? How did you prove them wrong? Share your story in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe for more real-life experiences about finding strength in unexpected places. Share this video with anyone who needs a reminder that their worth is not defined by other people's limitations. Thank you for listening to my journey, and remember that sometimes the best revenge is simply living well. Until next time, keep building the life you deserve.